Before human history, before the first forests took root, before the continents even resembled the maps we know today, there was only the collision of earth and stone. To understand Banff National Park, you must first understand deep time. Hundreds of millions of years ago, this very landscape was not a mountain range at all. It was the floor of a massive, shallow, ancient tropical sea. For eons, the skeletons of microscopic marine creatures rained down upon the ocean floor, slowly compressing into thick layers of limestone and shale. Then, roughly 75 million years ago, a violent geological shift began. Immense tectonic plates beneath the Pacific Ocean collided with the North American plate. The sheer, incomprehensible force of this impact fractured the Earth's crust, thrusting those ancient seabeds thousands of feet into the sky. This violent birth gave rise to a fortress of stone. We call them the Canadian Rockies. Today, if you climb to the highest peaks of Banff, you can still find the fossilized remains of ancient ocean coral embedded in the jagged stone, a silent reminder that these mountains were born from the bottom of the sea. Welcome to Banff National Park, spanning over 6,600 square kilometers of towering peaks, dense subalpine forests, and sprawling glaciers. This is a landscape defined by absolute extremes. It is Canada's first national park, the third oldest national park in the world, and a cornerstone of the Canadian Rocky Mountain Park's UNESCO World Heritage Site. But borders and titles mean nothing to the wilderness. Here, nature still rules with absolute authority, dictating every aspect of life, death, and survival. Long before the concept of a national park existed, this land was known to the first peoples of North America. For over 10,000 years, the Nakota, the Tsuut'ina, and the Blackfoot Confederacy traveled through these valleys. They understood the deep rhythms of the seasons, tracking the massive herds of bison that once roamed the eastern slopes and harvesting the rich medicinal plants of the alpine meadows. They knew the secret mountain passes, and they revered the natural hot springs scattered throughout the region as places of profound healing and spiritual power. For millennia, the human footprint here was light, respectful, and perfectly integrated into the fierce ecosystem. The modern era of Banff, however, began with the thunder of iron and steam. In the late 19th century, the newly formed nation of Canada was desperately trying to unite its distant coasts. The solution was the Canadian Pacific Railway, a massive engineering marvel designed to punch a steel corridor directly through the impenetrable Rockies. It was dangerous, back-breaking work, but in the autumn of 1883, 3 railway workers, Franklin McCabe, Thomas McArdle, and William McArdle, made a discovery on the eastern slopes of Sulphur Mountain that would alter the course of Canadian history. Following a plume of steam rising through the dense pine trees, they descended through a hole in the earth using a felled trunk line. At the bottom of this dark cave, they found natural, bubbling thermal hot springs. Recognizing the immense financial potential of these healing waters, the Canadian government quickly intervened. In 1885, they established a tiny 10-square-mile reserve around the cave and basin hot springs. This small act of preservation sparked a revolution. What began as a modest reserve eventually expanded outward, absorbing the surrounding peaks, valleys, and glaciers, transforming into the massive national park we know today. The town of Banff grew rapidly from a rough railway outpost into a world-renowned destination. Grand hotels were constructed to mimic Scottish castles, and Swiss mountain guides were brought across the Atlantic to teach wealthy Victorian tourists how to conquer the terrifying summits. But beyond the town limits, the true heart of Banff remains fiercely untamed. The ecology of this park is dictated entirely by elevation, creating 3 distinct zones of life. At the lowest elevations, in the valley bottoms, we find the montane zone. This is the warmest and driest part of the park. Here, open meadows of rough fescue grass are bordered by towering Douglas firs and trembling aspens. It is the vital wintering ground for the park's large mammals. As we move higher up the mountain slopes, we enter the subalpine zone, a dark, dense world dominated by lodgepole pines and angle spruce trees. Life here is much harder. The winters are longer, the snow is deeper, and the temperatures frequently drop to -30 degrees Celsius. Finally, above the tree line, we reach the alpine tundra. This is a bleak, wind-swept world of bare rock, permanent snowfields, and microscopic plant life. It is an environment so hostile that trees simply cannot grow, and only the incredibly adapted creatures can survive the freezing gales. Survival in Banff requires ultimate resilience. The undisputed master of this domain is the grizzly bear. Weighing up to 600 pounds, these solitary, magnificent titans are the apex predators of the Rockies. Their massive shoulder humps are composed of pure muscle, powering long claws perfectly designed for excavating roots and ground squirrels from the hard earth. Because the growing season in the mountains is painfully short, a grizzly bear lives in a constant state of urgency. During the brief summer months, they must frantically consume up to 40,000 calories a day, gorging on buffalo berries to build the crucial layer of fat they need to survive a brutal 6-month-long winter hibernation deep inside a snow-covered den. Sharing this vertical world are the bighorn sheep. These incredible mountaineers possess specialized concaved hooves with rough pads that grip the sheer rock faces like suction cups. They navigate impossible vertical cliffs with mathematical precision, easily outmaneuvering ground predators like wolves and cougars. Higher still, in the desolate alpine rock piles, lives the hoary marmot, the largest member of the squirrel family. Known as the whistlers of the mountains for their piercing alarm calls, they spend up to 8 months of the year asleep under the snow, their heart rates dropping to a mere fraction of a beat per minute. And silently stalking the highest ridges is the elusive wolverine, a phantom of the snow. Despite their relatively small size, wolverines are fiercely aggressive scavengers, capable of driving a full-grown grizzly bear away from a fresh carcass. While the animals provide the pulse of the park, the water provides the color. As we travel northwest from the town site, the elevation rises and the air grows noticeably colder and thinner. Here, nestled beneath the imposing hanging face of the Victoria Glacier, lies the absolute jewel of the Canadian Rockies, Lake Louise. It is, without question, one of the most photographed bodies of water on the planet. But no camera lens can truly capture the vivid, almost unnatural emerald turquoise color of this lake. The secret to this vibrant color lies high above, locked inside the ice. As massive glaciers slowly, relentlessly slide down the mountainside over decades, their immense, crushing weight grinds the underlying bedrock into a microscopic powdery dust known as rock flour. When the summer sun finally melts the glacial ice, this fine rock dust is carried down by rushing waterfalls and streams into the lake basin below. Because the particles of rock flour are so incredibly light and small, they do not sink to the bottom. Instead, they remain permanently suspended in the water column. When sunlight hits the lake, these suspended particles absorb the red, orange, and yellow wavelengths of light while perfectly refracting the blue and green wavelengths back to our eyes. Standing on the shores of Lake Louise, wrapped in the profound silence of the surrounding peaks, it is easy to understand why the Nakota people referred to this sacred place as the Lake of the Little Fishes. It is a place of absolute pristine reflection, mirroring the sky and the stone.
Just a few kilometers away, hidden at the end of a winding, avalanche-prone mountain road, is a valley that demands even greater reverence. This is Moraine Lake, resting deep within the shadow of the Valley of the 10 Peaks. If Lake Louise is a portrait of quiet elegance, Moraine Lake is a testament to raw, aggressive, untamed power. The mountains here do not simply rise gently from the earth, they tear through the sky like jagged, broken teeth. Mount Temple, the highest peak in this immediate area, looms menacingly at over 11,600 feet, its dark rock face perpetually scarred by ice and shadow. The lake itself sits at an even higher elevation than Lake Louise, situated deep in a bowl of stone. Because of this, Moraine Lake remains frozen solid and hidden under deep, impassable snow until late June. But when the long winter finally breaks, the ice retreats to reveal a color so deep, so unnervingly rich, that it was chosen to grace the back of the Canadian $20 bill for decades. This $20 view is a brutal, beautiful reminder of the Earth's architecture. Sitting on the massive rock pile at the edge of the water, listening to the distant, echoing crack of ice falling from the high peaks, you realize that you are merely a temporary visitor in a cathedral built by time. While the mountains are the silent giants of Banff, water is the relentless, patient architect. Nowhere is this more apparent than deep within the damp limestone walls of Johnston Canyon. For thousands of years, the rushing waters of Johnston Creek have patiently carved their way directly through the bedrock. What began millennia ago as a simple surface stream has sliced a deep, narrow gorge into the earth. It is a shadowy, humid microclimate where direct sunlight struggles to reach the bottom. Here, vibrant green moss clings to every available surface, thriving in the constant, chilling mist. The sheer power of the water is deafening. It crashes violently over the lower and upper falls, swirling into deep, turquoise plunge pools. Walking through this canyon is a visceral reminder that the mountains are not permanent. They are constantly being broken down, grain by grain, drop by drop, in a never-ending cycle of erosion that will continue long before human civilization has faded away. To truly comprehend the staggering scale of Banff National Park, one must embark on the Icefields Parkway. Stretching for 232 kilometers, this ribbon of asphalt is widely considered the most spectacular drive in the world. Running parallel to the Continental Divide, this highway does not simply pass through the mountains, it is entirely swallowed by them. Every sweeping curve reveals another nameless, snow-capped giant. The parkway connects the borders of Banff to Jasper National Park in the north, taking travelers past more than 100 ancient glaciers, emerald lakes, and sweeping valleys of untouched pine forest. Along this route, the landscape becomes increasingly wild and desolate. We pass Bow Summit, the highest point on the parkway, where the turquoise waters of Peyto Lake sit perfectly shaped like the head of a massive wolf. We see the Crowfoot Glacier, clinging desperately to the sheer cliffs above Bow Lake. Driving this road is an exercise in absolute humility. It is a corridor of continuous awe, a journey where the final destination matters far less than the overwhelming beauty of the road itself. At the northernmost reaches of this incredible journey, we encountered the true architects of the Rockies, the remnants of the last ice age. We have arrived at the Columbia Icefield. Resting high upon the Great Divide, this is the largest expanse of ice in the Rocky Mountains. It is a literal frozen ocean, feeding 6 major glaciers, including the massive and highly visible Athabasca Glacier. The ice here is incomprehensibly thick, reaching depths of over 1,200 feet. The Columbia Icefield is a hydrological marvel. It sits at a triple continental divide. The meltwater from this single colossal dome of ice flows outward across the continent in 3 different directions, eventually reaching 3 different oceans. Some water flows north to the Arctic Ocean, some flows east to the Atlantic, and some flows west to the Pacific. Standing on the toe of the Athabasca Glacier, feeling the freezing katabatic winds rushing down off the ice, you are standing on frozen history. The ice at the bottom of this glacier fell as snow hundreds of years ago, long before the Industrial Revolution. But this frozen giant is terribly vulnerable. Year by year, the Athabasca Glacier is visibly retreating. Its massive face is shrinking, moving backward up the valley as global temperatures continue to rise at an unprecedented rate. Markers placed by scientists along the rocky moraine show exactly where the ice used to reach decades ago, providing a stark, undeniable visual record of climate change. The Columbia Icefield stands as an icy thermometer for the planet, quietly reminding us of the fragility of even the most permanent-looking landscapes on Earth. As summer fades in Banff, a profound silence falls over the park. The transition to winter is not gentle, it is an aggressive takeover. By November, the turquoise lakes freeze solid, snapping and groaning under the immense pressure of the expanding ice. The roaring waterfalls of Johnston Canyon slowly halt their descent, freezing in mid-air to create massive, intricate cathedrals of blue ice. The snow begins to fall, burying the subalpine forests in meters of heavy white powder. Winter in the Rockies is a time of extreme hardship, but also unparalleled beauty. The landscape is stripped of its vibrant summer colors, replaced by a stark, high-contrast world of brilliant white snow, dark black rock, and deep blue skies. The grizzly bears are deep underground, their heart rate slowed, waiting out the freezing darkness. But life does not stop. The wolves continue to hunt the valleys, their thick coats protecting them from the biting wind. The elk paw desperately at the deep snow to uncover the dormant grasses below. It is a silent, brutal struggle for existence that plays out every day in the freezing temperatures. When the sun dips below the jagged horizon, the temperature plummets instantly. The brief alpenglow paints the highest peaks in brilliant shades of pink and orange before giving way to the deep twilight. For over a century, people have traveled from every corner of the globe to stand in the shadow of these mountains. We come here to hike the steep, grueling trails, to paddle the icy, pristine waters, and to sleep out under a canopy of stars completely untouched by the light pollution of modern cities. We come to Banff because it strips away the noise, the stress, and the complications of the modern world. In this sanctuary of stone and ice, we are reminded of the true, magnificent scale of the Earth. We are reminded that we are part of something much larger, much older, and much more powerful than ourselves. Banff National Park is not just a location on a map, it is a profound feeling. It is a testament to the wild, unforgiving, and endless beauty of our planet. It is a legacy carved in stone, a promise kept by those who fought to protect it a century ago, and a responsibility handed down to us to ensure it remains pristine. May it remain wild.